Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dive Deep. I'm Shelby Cornett, the ministry assistant at Cambridge City Christian Church, and it's Danny again. I'm beating up my microphone.
Danny again. It's me, your
Yep.
worst nightmare.
Every week, over and over.
Do you feel like it's Groundhog Day? Like,
I feel like I shouldn't have to say, and this is Danny.
yeah, it's just like an assumption now, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one week you got to do it where, like, you introduce, but then nobody's here, and then you just do the podcast all by yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
You don't want to do that? All right. Well,
I have to
you
talk
are
the whole
this.
time by
This is
myself.
your podcast, so you just vetoed my idea.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I'm just
well,
the interviewer.
yeah. No, you own this thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My name's on the title thing.
True. Yeah. And I think it's first,
Well, so is
right?
yours.
But yours name's
My name is first.
your
yeah.
name comes first, so that means you're more important.
That's true.
Yeah. All right.
Whatever.
Well, whatever.
Yeah. All right. So this week we wrapped up a
Yeah.
series. It all comes down to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about stranger danger.
Stranger danger. Did you like the video?
Yes. It was so tacky.
I would tell anybody. We didn't show the whole video.
No.
The video is like 10 or 15 minutes
I
long.
do encourage you to watch the whole video.
Yeah, if you can find it on YouTube, just look it up. Just put in "stranger danger," I think, or something, and you'll find it. I mean, it is deserving of an Oscar for the production quality and the acting.
For the cheesiest video ever
The
made.
cheesiest video. Isn't there like I forget what it is. Isn't there like an award show what is it called? The Razzies they do every
I've
year.
never heard of that.
Yeah, they do an award show around Oscars time every year to kind of the cheesiest movies or shows
Yeah.
or whatever they give awards to and stuff. Yeah, so
Yeah, they
That-
should be nominated.
they should be nominated. But yeah, I thought it would be funny to kind of loosen up a very serious topic that we talked
Right.
about this week.
So what we talked about was kind of like the opposite of stranger danger.
Yeah, so when we grow up, we're taught to stay away from strangers, and obviously you should. As a kid, we hear unfortunately a lot about kidnappings and whatnot. But the thing is, as we become adults, we tend to have stranger danger to people who are different than us. Not necessarily that those people are dangerous; it's just they're different. So we avoid them. We don't connect with them. And if you go to an extreme, we might even become either racist, xenophobic. I mean, there's all kinds
What's
of
that mean?
xenophobic's kind of the same thing as racist.
Okay.
I mean, it actually comes from the word I mentioned in church Sunday. The Greek term is let me see. I just saw it here in my notes. It's xenos, I think. Xenos, yeah,
Okay.
xenos, which is a Greek word that refers to a foreigner or a stranger.
Okay.
So it's xenophobia is kind of more of a subset, sort of racism,
Right.
where you are afraid of somebody who's a foreigner.
Okay.
So that's why you'll hear
So
that
maybe
term.
a little more broad.
That's why you often hear that term connected with like people try to slap it on someone who they think doesn't want somebody to enter our country or something because they're a foreigner. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's what xenophobia is.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
You learned
So-
something today.
I did.
Don't
and
ever
I meant,
say I didn't teach you anything.
You said it Sunday, and I meant to write it down, and then I didn't write it down. And,
Yeah, because you were probably too busy talking and not paying attention.
oh, yeah. Talking. and
Like everybody at
texting
church.
and doodling.
Just
and-
kidding. Yeah. I see you. I know who you are. No, I'm just kidding.
Talking at church.
All right, yeah, those people that talk and look
Don't
at their
give you
look
their
at their phones.
undivided
Yeah,
attention.
yeah, yeah. You're on my list.
I did text Travis
I
during
added you on
church
my
on
list.
Sunday.
Uh-huh.
You're right.
So you were part of those people.
But I was texting him to make sure that something was mentioned from the stage that I felt should be mentioned.
Sure. Okay.
Back to church Sunday, this Sunday, September 17th.
Yeah. That was a good
That
plug.
plug.
Good try there though to cover up your Facebook scrolling during church.
Yeah.
You're trying to make it sound like you were watching out for me.
Yeah, I put my headphones
But-
in during church
Yeah. Yeah.
and watched TikToks. I don't do that.
Dive deep TikToks. That's
oh
what
yeah,
you watch.
that's what I watch.
That's
I watch
what you
Dive
watch.
Deep.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
watch myself.
Well, you are kind of
I don't like
in
to-
love with yourself. but-
Yeah. That's. I'm
Well, you
telling
said that your name is first on Dive Deep.
That's true. I
My name
did.
is first on Dive Deep.
And you know what? I love my job, but the worst part of my job all week is having to watch myself on Dive Deep
It is hard.
when I edit.
It's
Oh,
hard to
my
watch
goodness.
yourself. Yeah.
It's
it is
rough.
hard. Yep. Yep.
All right. Anyways,
All right.
back to
Yeah. Yeah.
the
You're
serious
losing.
stuff.
You're losing this podcast,
I am.
Shelby.
when you get back on the rails.
I think next week we need to switch the names. It should be Dive Deep with Danny and Shelby.
Oh, are you going to interview me?
No, you'll still interview, but
Oh,
my
okay,
name
but
will
you
be
just want your
first.
name to be first. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Okay.
All right, back
right,
to
okay.
strangers.
Yeah. Mhm.
So we talked about inviting the stranger.
Yeah.
So are you ready for my questions?
Yeah. I
Or
think
did
so.
you want to talk about anything else?
No, go
Because
ahead.
we got distracted.
Yeah, yeah, and well, all I was going to say was that there in the passage of Matthew, Jesus talks about inviting the stranger in.
Right.
So yeah, so what does that mean? I think
Right.
is what you're saying, and
Yeah.
I think that's maybe what some of our questions are going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my questions, I will say first, stranger is mentioned at least 3 times in my question. That's the
Mhm.
word of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it I feel like we've kind of already covered, but I wanted to dive a little deeper into
Yeah.
it.
Sure. Sure.
So, all right, ready?
I think so.
Okay. Question 1.
All right.
When Jesus says strangers, who is he referring to?
So when we think of a stranger, we think of it simply as someone we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But a stranger, what Jesus is referring to when he speaks of a stranger, is something much deeper. It's a person who may look different than us, who may even think different than us, that may live in a geographical area away from us. So a stranger is anybody that we are not connected to. The Bible, Jesus talks about neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. Okay? Well, a neighbor would be what a stranger becomes when you get to know them. Okay. Now, a neighbor is anybody, but see, the main point from the message was there should be no strangers when we know Jesus. See, that's the thing. Because of Jesus Christ, we shouldn't allow barriers to get in the way of getting to know somebody. So a stranger is just somebody who's different. It could be ethnically. They're all the different reasons that we're different from other people.
Yeah.
That's what a stranger is. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second one, I mean, it's kind of like a statement
Mm-hmm.
rather than a question.
Okay.
But we are all strangers to someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like that's important to talk about.
Yeah.
That we feel that way about somebody else, but they feel the same way about us.
Yeah, so if you go into the Old Testament, Jesus refers, or not Jesus, the Old Testament text refers to the importance of hospitality to those who are foreigners, or more specifically, the vulnerable. So when they're saying that, hey, when you're doing that, remember, actually the text even says, remember, this is what happened to you when you were in Egypt, that referring to the Israelites. Same for us. All of us in this country are from somewhere else, okay? So remember that when you run into somebody who is not, quote unquote, from here, because none of us are from here.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. And we think differently and believe different things.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. One of the things I know when Adriana shared on Sunday, one of the things that she mentioned was her story about being at Burger King, and they were just sitting there eating their Whopper or whatever, and some guy just comes up to them and tells them to go back where they came from, and honestly, you could have turned that question back on him.
Yeah.
Because all of us came from somewhere different. So yeah, we've got to be careful with that stuff. That's
Right.
just not.
And you're here, so it doesn't matter.
You're here, yeah, and that's a good point. Like, what good does that do? Like,
Right.
maybe we had to quote Rodney King. Why don't we all just get along? Why can't we just accept? Okay, you're here. Let's try to work together.
I'm here, you're here.
Yeah. I don't know.
Great.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I could rant about that. But,
Oh, I know. Me too.
yeah. All right, last question.
Okay.
In what ways should we view these strangers in our lives? And how can we invite them in?
So Jesus commands us there in Matthew to invite them in. And inviting a stranger in is not just necessarily inviting them into your house and having dinner, although it could, but it's recognizing their value, recognizing their value as being made in the image of God. So that's having a conversation with them, not ignoring them, involving them in things. There's actually a passage in, I believe it's Deuteronomy, that talks about when you worship, involve the foreigner in your time of worship. Don't leave them outside watching. And so in our lives, we get wrapped up in our families and our community life, but we have to remember people who aren't from there too. We have to remember the foreigner too. Yeah.
I feel like this is just my opinion, so I may be wrong. Like, I feel like acceptance is probably a good first step when it comes to strangers. Like, because I feel like for some people it might be a process.
Sure.
So even just accepting them could
Yeah,
make a
kind
big
of-
difference.
Kind of accept that. Well, for it has to start. Yeah, accept their value.
Yeah.
That they're valuable. That they deserve to be loved, just like I deserve to be loved. Yeah, it starts with that, and then once you accept their value,
You can build.
then you start bringing them into the fold, so to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's this passage is an interesting one. There's a couple of things. So when Jesus, going back to the word I talked to you about a few minutes ago, the word xenos. So that if you look at the actual definition of it, and I shared this on Sunday, it refers to an unfamiliar person, and then specifically it refers to a foreigner. So if you think of it, it's actually talking about two different groups of people. There's the foreigner, and then there's a person that you're unfamiliar with. So what's been interesting, and I thought it would be good to talk a little bit about this today in this setting, is, for us as my family, we kind of fit both of those scenarios in our community here. When we moved here 19 years ago, we were unfamiliar. And my wife's Hispanic, so to some people they would see her as her, and then my children as well. Obviously, they're Hispanic.
Right.
They would see them as foreign. Okay, so you kind of had that double whammy.
Right.
And I will say that over the last 19 years, and this is one of the dangers that I would caution those in a small community. I didn't talk a lot about this Sunday, but I will say, we've been here 19 years, and I've talked to other people who are new to our community. There's a lot of people that are new to the community feel very similar to us in that they've never really felt like they're a part of the community. And again, that's not a dig per se at Cambridge City or anything, but
Right.
but what often happens in small communities is the people that you go to school with and you graduate with and all that, you get to know them, and that's understandable, right? I mean, you share life experiences and whatnot, but then you're often left alone.
Right.
Those that aren't from here are left alone, and we've experienced that a lot over the last 19 years. Whether it's at school events, we often find ourselves by ourselves because people tend to hang out with people that are from here. I see that a lot, and it I'm not gonna lie, it does hurt sometimes. It's like, well, okay, I guess I'm, and then you throw in the other piece of it too with the foreigner piece. I think that my wife specifically being Hispanic, we've run into situations here in our community, in our region, where there's racial elements to it. I think it's important for people to know that. I'll just share a story of something that happened a few years ago. I may have shared this in a sermon, maybe not. Maybe not. I may have shared this just with people I know, but
I think I might know what you're talking
yeah, but a few years ago when my wife was teaching at our local school, I was sitting in the bleachers, and they were doing introductions for the teachers. They did that every year. The principal would come up and introduce all the teachers and blah blah blah, and my wife was standing there, and there was somebody sitting behind me who obviously didn't know who I was, or they didn't see that I was there, because I think they figured out who I was. You'll see why here in a second. But anyway, they pretty much said they said something pretty racist, pretty much a kind of like they need to go back where they came from statement. And I turned around, and you know me, I'm not a type of person that will like
You're not very confrontational.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to pick a fight or anything. But I stood up and I looked at the person and I said, "Excuse me." Like I said it real. And there was a bunch of people that like stopped and looked, you know. And then I think he put two and two together who I was.
Right.
And so then, yeah, and then I walked away and I like sat down in the next section of bleachers because I was so angry about that moment. And that just really gave me an insight as to what is going on, what can happen in people's lives. You know, we hear a lot about racism in our country today. Do I believe there's racism in our country? Absolutely. Do I believe it's institutional? Not so much. I don't think institutionally it's like built. A lot of companies, it's not built into companies.
It's not like the 50s. Like,
No, but there is a lot of individual racism that's still there. Well, I don't want to say a lot. There's some that's still there in pockets. And I've seen it. My wife's experienced it, and I saw it indirectly, I guess, sort of through her that night. And you get looks and you get these, you know, these things happen. And so as Christians, we have to be different. You know, Jesus, actually, there's a passage in Colossians where Paul says that there is no Greek or Jew. So there's ethnic groups, right? Greek, Jew, circumcised or uncircumcised. So those were religious practices. Barbarian, Scythian was an ethnic group. Slaves, free people. He says there's none of that. He said, but Christ is all and is in all. So in essence, he's saying it doesn't matter what group, what background, what you look like.
we're all the same.
We're all the same in Jesus Christ. And so as Christians, we have to be the ones to lead the charge on that. And actually, if you go back historically in our country in the civil rights movement, it was the Christians that led in this. If you go back into the slavery, the end of slavery, people like William Wilberforce, Charles Finney here in the United States, who was a part of, who was an early part of the removal, like the abolitionist cause here in the United States. Christians led the charge on these things. And what I think we have to do is we have to continue to lead the charge. But I am concerned because I do feel like there has been a little bit of especially when it comes to, you know, we can have a whole discussion on immigration, but what's happened is I'm afraid immigration has become a racial discussion and not a policy discussion for some people. I'm not trying to lump everybody in. I think for some people it is a policy thing, and that's a legitimate thing to talk about. But we have to be very careful not to lump in the racial side of this. You know, I really hope that as Christians we have a better heart and understanding why immigrants are doing what they're doing. I don't think, I would say most immigrants, they don't want to break the law. But when your kids are starving or when you're in a war zone, which Mexico, I mean, my wife is from southern Mexico, and she wants to go back and visit. She hasn't been there since she was like 4 years old, so she doesn't remember it. She wants to go down. It's a little state. It's called Colima, which is down along the Pacific coast. She wants to visit it, but if you go online, Colima is the most dangerous state in all of Mexico, and Mexico itself is dangerous.
Yeah.
And for all intents and purposes, there is a war going on down there. Okay. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sit in some town and watch my neighbors and maybe even myself get shot up? Or am I going to try to go somewhere that's safer and more prosperous? By golly, I don't care what law stands in the way. I'm going to try to protect my family. And I think that's what a lot of it is. Now, again, I know that there are bad guys, too, that are coming through. And we do need to know who's coming in. But I think a lot of the anger has been directed toward immigrants. Honestly, and I'm not trying to get political, but I guess I sort of am. A lot of this needs to be directed toward our government. Our government is the one that is not stepping up. They're the ones that, you know, it takes 10 years to become a legal immigrant. My wife had to go through all that, and it's ridiculous. it's the government that's the problem. The government needs to fix and take care of itself. But the government is what's pitting people against each other.
Right. And if
And
they fixed their problems, people wouldn't have to come here illegally.
exactly.
I mean, people still would.
There would still be some, but I honestly, I would say a majority of people that would come would do it legally. Because I mean, who wants to come and look over your shoulder every day, wondering if you're going to get arrested and deported? Nobody
Right.
wants to go through that.
Right.
So I think most people would gladly, if they had did it within a year, like if you had a year-long process, they would wait.
Yeah.
But if I got to sit around and wait for 10 years, they're not going to do that.
No.
And who would? So yeah. So let's be very careful. Let's not make this a racial issue. This is a maybe a policy. There's definitely policy questions, but let's just be careful and let's just love people because they're valuable to God.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm off my soapbox. As you can
right.
tell, we've kind of lived through all this in the last 10 years.
And
or
we've
so,
had
but
discussions in the office too about
yeah.
it's just sad.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
we're done with that.
Yeah.
And what is this week?
So this week is Back to Church Sunday. So this is an opportunity for people. Maybe they've drifted away from being
Maybe you should invite a stranger to
invade a
church.
stranger, and that's what we did. So we tried to encourage everybody to do that. We're going to do that this Sunday, and we're going to have a ministry fair as well, so people can kind of see how they can get connected to ministries. Our life group signups end this week, and then we're going to have a cookout afterward, and you're going to try to defend your cornhole title.
Yes. Cornhole
Yeah.
champion
Yeah.
with Kevin. Can't forget Kevin. He helped.
So we need somebody to show up this year to beat them because Shelby she was like impossible to be around for like 2 weeks in the office. She was like just,
Carry my trophy around.
that's right. Yeah. She was just impossible. So
I didn't do
please, we need somebody to come and defeat her and Kevin this year.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, it'll be fun. Weather's looking pretty good right now so far. We'll see what happens. But if it's not inside, we'll do it in the gym. But it'll be a fun time just to connect.
And there's going to be an ice cream bar.
There is an ice cream bar. That is one of our highlights.
That's a
So
selling point right there.
That is a big one. Yeah. I might just eat ice cream.
And there's a prize for cornhole.
We do. We've
Two
got
prizes.
We've actually got two. We'll leave one of them as a surprise, but the other one
Yeah.
we've been told we're going to have a cornhole board for somebody for the winners.
Sets for the
A
winner.
set for the winner.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good prize.
That's a big deal.
That's a good prize. So
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right. So make sure you join us this week for Back to Church Sunday. Was there anything else you wanted to say?
No, I don't think so. I think
Okay.
we covered it. Yeah.
All right. So we'll see you this week for Back to Church Sunday, and we hope you have a good week.